The year was 1908. The first Model Ts rolled off the line in Detroit, Michigan, and America was instantly enamored. What started as love at first sight has over the last century blossomed into one of the most stable and consistent relationships many Americans will ever know. Take a second to remember your first car. $10 says you're smiling fondly right now. Even if it was a total beater, it was yours and it was your first, and it meant freedom and independence. We name our cars, lovingly wash and wax them, obsess about their interiors, pimp them out with rims and audio systems. The significance of our relationships with our rides is so deeply ingrained that banking and other high-security websites often use the make and model of a user's first car as a backup security detail. Even in cities like New York, where relatively few people own cars, the annual car show is a big deal. With gas prices soaring and no plateau in sight, the nation's car owners, whose wallets are still feeling the effects of the recession, are struggling to keep their gas tanks full. Enter the recent wave of hot fuel lawsuits. In short, this relationship is on the rocks. It has recently come to the attention of the American people, most of whom already felt like they were getting ripped off every time they had to stop at a gas station, that warmer weather negatively impacts the ability of standard gas pumps to accurately measure how much gas a customer is pumping. For drivers during the summer months, one of the nation's busiest driving seasons, and drivers who live in perennial warmer climates, this discrepancy can amount to as much as an extra 8 cents per gallon. Gas pumps dispense gas by volume. The problem is that gas, like many other substances, expands as it gets warmer, becoming less dense and containing less energy by volume. For those of you who don't like physics, what's important here is that a gallon of gas measured at 80 degrees won't take you as far as a gallon of gas measured at 60 degrees. And no, this isn't just an unfortunate phenomenon that no one realized was happening. Consumer advocates estimate that those 8 extra cents add up to as much as $2.3 billion a year in profits absorbed not only by the gas stations themselves, but also by the big oil companies who are their suppliers. In fact, it's the big oil companies and their lobbyists who are spearheading the effort to block the implementation of temperature-sensitive pumps that would correct the problem and ensure that drivers get the amount of gas that they are paying for. Not only is this energy, volume, temperature situation something big oil knows all about, they've known about it for a long time. If you're anything like me, you may have found yourself at the end of a long day, lost in a daydream about leaving it all behind and running away to paradise. Aloha, Hawaii. Sandy beaches, exotic volcanoes, luau's, mai, hula dancers, leis, and temperature-adjusted gas measurements. That's right, Hawaii's even more of a paradise than many Americans realize. They've been adjusting gas dispensing measurements since the 70s due to the efforts of state officials during the energy crisis. Hawaiians get about 3 extra cubic inches of gas per gallon at the pump to account for their tropical climate. Representatives of the oil industry cite cost as a prohibiting factor against retrofitting retail gas pumps to account for changes in temperature. A representative from the American Petroleum Institute has argued that fixing the problem would cost $15 billion at $25,000 a pump. But pump manufacturers put their high-end estimate at $1.9 billion, only $2,650 per pump. Remember, this discrepancy is costing consumers $2.3 billion a year, and the $1.9 billion to retrofit would be a one-time expense. To add a degree of perspective, BP, Chevron, ConocoPhillips, ExxonMobil, and Royal Dutch Shell reported combined earnings of $34.6 billion in the second quarter alone. That's more than 18 times the amount needed for this one-time expense. The smoking gun, or in this case smelly fumes, that indicate that big oil's motives are profit-driven, lies in Canada, our colder friend to the north, whose cooler temperatures mean that a gallon of gas purchased in Canada contains more potential energy than a gallon of gas purchased and measured in the more southern continental U.S., meaning the financial benefit would pass to the consumer and not the oil companies if standard volume measurements that didn't account for temperature were used. No surprise that most gas sold in Canada is temperature adjusted. In fact, the oil industry supported sponsorship of the initiative that led to the installation of new pumps. Annoying, eh? The way we see it, if we want fair, temperature-adjusted gas prices, Americans have two options. 1. Move to Hawaii. Or 2. You can sign on to electedface.com and sign our petitions, telling your state and federal governments that you are tired of paying for energy that you're not actually getting. Personally, I really like the ukulele, so I'm leaning towards option 1. But because my fantasy doesn't involve taking the entire population of the continental US with me, I suggest you stay right where you are and take 5 minutes to sign the petitions. Weights and measurements are under state authority, but Congress also has the ability to step in. Tell your representatives to stand up to big oil and insist on fair gas measurements. Or, if you don't think we should have temperature-adjusted gas measurements, maybe you're Alaskan, sign on and tell us why not. We want to hear from everyone.